Have you ever picked up something in your house and thought, why have I kept this for so long? If so, you are not alone and you have clicked on the right video. Today, I am sharing 5 just-in-case items that have been cluttering up my home. Over the last 7 years, I've cut our belongings in half and helped dozens of families do the same as a professional organizer. And trust me, just-in-case items are one of the hardest to let go of. One of the items I'm letting go of today might be something that's also cluttering up your house. So keep watching and let's declutter together. A few weeks ago, my husband and I were digging out our backyard furniture out of our crawl space, trying to manifest spring here in Ontario, and I found something that I completely forgot I owned. Now, this happens in every client job. At one point, the client always says, "Oh my gosh, I forgot I even own that." However, in this case, this was something pretty big and bulky, and I can't believe I forgot about it. It was an easel that I had purchased when I first started my business to take to trade shows with me, and I would use it with a big poster like frame with all my information on it, and I actually really loved it. It worked really well for me. However, I found that trade shows weren't really effective for me, so I tucked it away a few years ago and thought I would keep it just in case. Fast forward to a couple of months ago when a local realtor asked me to do an in-person workshop session with him. And he said, "Hey, if you have any signage or a pull-up banner or anything, feel free to bring it with you." And I thought, oh my gosh, that's a great idea. Why have I never owned something like that? So I went ahead and spent $300 on a brand new pull-up banner, which is amazing and handy and it's great and I do love it. However, in that moment, I had completely forgot this easel even existed. And it would have worked perfectly for this event and it would have saved me $300. I was so mad at myself. The lesson in this example is very clear. If we own too much to keep track of, there is no point in even keeping these just-in-case items because chances are we won't even be able to find them when we do need them. Humans can only manage a certain number of belongings. As I've shared before, we have a spot in our son's closet, which is a permanent spot for items that the kids have outgrown. We call it our too small bin, and it's technically just a bag. But it's so convenient, and we use it regularly, and I'm throwing things in there mornings and evenings and regularly all throughout the year. I also sometimes throw other random things in there, like stuffies or toys or random bedroom bits that I know should be leaving the house. And one of the items that I noticed a few days ago was a grow clock that I had put in there years ago. I empty this bag multiple times every single year. But for whatever reason, my brain just kept saying, oh, we gotta keep that just in case, and then just putting the clock back in the bag. A grow clock is basically just an alarm clock for little kids who can't tell the time, and it uses lights instead of the time to wake them up and let them know that they're allowed to get out of their bed. We actually did use a grow clock in our son's room. However, with our daughter, it just never worked out. She would turn the light on in the middle of the night and it really backfired for us and it drove us crazy. We actually received both of the grow clocks as hand-me-downs from Scott's sister, so we didn't even pay for them. However, in the back of my mind, I just kept thinking, well, what if we need to use 2 at the same time because they're really expensive and then we would have to pay for them. Our kids are now 7 and 8 years old, and the grow clock that we even do have in Leo's room, we just use as a regular clock. We don't use any of the features. The lesson here is that just in case items do make sense sometimes to keep, but only for a certain period of time. In that moment, it definitely made sense for me to keep that grow clock, however, not for this long. A similar example we see in client homes all the time is paint. We get our houses freshly painted, or we do a new room and we have a little bit of paint left, so we want to keep that for touch-ups, which totally makes sense. However, it doesn't make sense for a decade when the paint is no longer usable at all. Eventually, things just get past the point of even potentially being useful. In one of my recent videos, I shared how it's tricky to let go of gifts, including hand-me-downs. My mom gave me this basket a few weeks ago. I honestly don't know where it came from. I'm assuming she was decluttering her house and she thought Marianne would probably like this basket, which I do. However, I didn't have an immediate need for it, so I put it downstairs in our basement on our laundry room counter where it has lived since. Even after I admitted to myself, I probably don't really need this basket, I still struggled to let it go. And so I ended up swapping it with an existing basket we had in our laundry room area. And it's a bit bigger and it actually does work a little bit better. And then I even went a step further and considered what I could use the basket that was there, what I could use that for in other areas of our house. But there was no reason for me to keep it. So I decided, yes, it is time to let this go. The lesson in this example is the 20-20 rule, or whatever people are calling it, where in 3 months, if I wake up and think, oh my gosh, I need another basket, am I able to access it for 20 bucks or less in 20 minutes or less? And the answer is definitely yes. Our city is full of thrift shops, which are full of wicker baskets. So I can stop acting like this is the last wicker basket ever made and just let it go. Just in case item number 4 is also a basket. I'm telling you guys, baskets are my kryptonite. Whenever clients admit to a weird thing that they're having a hard time letting go of, I never judge. Every single person I've ever come across has a weird category of things that they struggle with letting go of the most. I've owned this long, super shallow basket for years, probably 15 years, and I have always used it as a fruit basket. However, it has always been way too long and way too annoying for every table we've ever had. When we sit down to eat any meal, I always end up having to take it off the table to make enough room for us all to sit down. And this small extra step in our routine was starting to drive me crazy. So instead of thinking, I will keep this until one day a spot in our home magically appears that works perfectly for this super long basket, I am finally letting it go. I also already had a small wooden bowl that would work perfectly for our fruit, so I made it that much easier to let it go. The lesson here is that sometimes that maybe day just never really comes. Last example is a quickie. You might remember that I ended up posting a few items from my spring declutter haul that I wanted to sell. There were a few items of clothing from the kids that didn't get a lot of wear that I felt like were really in still really good condition. However, they have been up for a couple of weeks now and I haven't got a single message. I could probably keep the jackets until fall and sell them then. However, for the small amount I will get from me, it's just not worth it. They have been jamming up my donation station where I've been keeping them and I just really want them out of my house. The lesson here is that sometimes stuff just doesn't sell. We have bought and sold so many used things online, and sometimes I can predict what's gonna sell, and sometimes it's so random. I typically suggest maximum 4 weeks for people to leave stuff for sale online, unless it's happened to be something that's super valuable. As you can see, I plan on getting rid of 5 items, specific items out of my home, ended up with a table full of items that I am happy to let go of. Decluttering just in case items isn't always easy, but every step makes a big difference and often snowballs into more and more items. If you saw something today that reminded you of an item in your home, I encourage you to let it go and make space for what really matters. Thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and pass along to a friend who's also on a decluttering journey. Bye guys.